Welcome to the Veterans of the Cedar Valley program today, and my guest today is Dave Boyd and Jenny Ruther. And tell us what you do. Jenny, let's start with you. And what's your role at Goodwill Industries?
All right. Well, thanks for having us. I'm Jenny Ruther. I'm the Director of Human Services at Goodwill, and I provide the oversight of the programs for people with disabilities and disadvantages over several counties. So I oversee those programs, whether it's residential or the vocational, and now that includes the veterans program as well.
And Dave, I know what you do. I've known you for some time. So.
Yeah, I have the privilege of being the president CEO. we do go back a long way, my friend. I'm happy to say that I get to be the administrator at a growing, vibrant agency throughout Northeast Iowa. One that's grown to be between 16 and $17 million budget now.
Really?
And it was really small when I began, but it's really grown, and due to the services that Jenny's providing.
Right. Well, I do remember when you started, Dave, if you remember.
I had darker hair.
Well, and I was on the board at the time.
You were, Sid.
That's right. And so, well, that's great. And talk about your territory a little bit, because that is a question that does come up on Goodwill.
Yeah. We serve 22 counties in Northeast Iowa. We go from the Minnesota border to Highway 65 on the west side through Mason City, as far south as Tama and Toledo, and then the Mississippi River on the east. So we cover
a lot of
territory, Sid, and serve a lot of people in those 22 counties.
Right. That has expanded then since I was there.
The services have really blossomed, yes.
Well, what we want to do today is talk about Veterans of the Cedar Valley, and the idea came up about serving veterans, Goodwill serving veterans. And tell us about the history of that, how that got started and why.
Sure. It really came out of a strategic planning session that we had 6 or 7 years ago with the board of directors and some of our executive staff, that we wanted to serve additional populations beyond people with disabilities and disadvantages, and veterans was at the top of the list. So we began thinking and planning along those lines, and I'm happy to say that we hooked up with people like you, Sid, who have a very special interest in veterans.
That's right.
And convinced us to provide service to homeless vets.
Mm-hmm. And there are homeless vets. I mean, there are really homeless vets.
There are.
In the community, when you talk about that in our community here, that's a kind of a surprise to a lot of people that there are homeless vets here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, yeah, we've gotten calls to where people are, I mean, literally living under a bridge or living in their car in the dead of winter. You know, they have no gas, and so, you know, the car's going to be cold, and so yeah, it's nothing for us to get a call maybe at 5 o'clock on a Friday night and said, you know, can you put somebody in your home? And absolutely, we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? Why is that happening? And what is it that's missing that people need, or these veterans need this service, and the service that you're providing?
Sure. I think, you know, homelessness can be, you know, it can happen to anyone, you know, not necessarily veterans, obviously, but I think with some of their experience and maybe their post-traumatic stress disorder, that they're not able, for whatever reason, to maintain or hold down a job, and, you know, the lack of resources, and so things just fall to the wayside. Right. So yeah, that was just something that Dave and I talked about, that we want to help the veterans because they've helped us in the country for so many years. So it was back in August when we opened our first home. Right. And that's been very successful, and so now we've continued to grow. We opened up a new home in Waterloo, and we're even expanding in the Dubuque area as well.
Now, where was your first home?
In Cedar Falls.
In Cedar Falls?
In Cedar Falls.
I see. And then you opened one just recently, and thanks for the invite to come to that. But you have one in Waterloo, and you're going to have a dedication coming up soon.
Yes. Let me talk a little bit about the house in Waterloo. We are in collaborative efforts with Americans for Independent Living, who have purchased the home and renovated it very nicely. I think you have some pictures of that. We are providing the service, Sid, so Jenny and her staff will be providing case management, transportation, trips to doctor's offices, those kind of things that put these guys and gals back on the road to recovery.
All right. And you can see the pictures there now of the house, and it's a beautiful place, and you've really fixed that up nicely. Tell us how that came to be. How did the house get fixed and everything, and what did you have to do, and who worked with you?
Well, I have to credit Tim Combs from Waterloo.
Right.
Tim purchased the home with partly grant monies from the Trump Foundation, and they did all the renovation with volunteers and staff, and made it a very lovely home. When you look at those pictures, it's hard to imagine a veteran, as Jenny pointed out, living under a bridge and then finding themselves able to move into a nice facility like that. But Tim and his circle of friends have really done a great job renovating that home.
How many veterans will this house serve?
The house in Waterloo will serve 3 veterans.
3 veterans.
Compared to our one in Cedar Falls that has 4 bedrooms, so that can hold 4.
Okay, and are you thinking about more homes later on?
We are, Sid. Jenny can talk a little bit about how we are hoping that funding mechanisms come into place, but we need to find a way to pay for additional homes. And that's always the difficulty in the not-for-profit world, as you're well aware. Where's that next dollar come from?
Right.
So, while we have the chance today, I'd encourage people that want to donate to our veterans cause, please contact us at Goodwill. We will utilize cash, donations of furniture, anything that will help veterans.
Well, Mr. Combs is a part of that, and he's the one that coordinates the redevelopment of the house and the fixing and that sort of thing.
Yes, the house in Waterloo.
How that cooperative effort is being done with his organization and with the Goodwill Industries.
Yeah, we have simply worked out an agreement where he will provide the homes and renovate the homes. That he's doing he's carrying the water, if you will, for the renovation of those facilities. Jenny and her group are providing service to the veterans that live in those homes.
Good. And are there other agencies that are working with you on this project?
The Department of Veterans Affairs, they
Right.
work with us as
Right.
well in Operation Threshold.
Right.
We work closely with them because we get the referrals pretty much from one of those 2 organizations, and we have to make sure that they're honorably discharged to live in one of the houses and meet the requirements.
Okay.
So yeah, we work closely with those 2
Yeah.
organizations.
And that way that referrals then come from the VA office.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And well, we have just a minute left on this segment. Time goes very fast here.
It does.
Seems like. But When we come back, I'd like to talk about you have an opening coming with the house on East 9th Street, and when we come back, let's talk about that.
Okay,
Okay.
Sid, thank
You
you.
bet.
From the world wars to Korea, Vietnam, to the Persian Gulf, Afghanistan, and Iraq, they saw what few others ever saw. But many veterans don't talk about their experiences. It may be because you've never asked. Learn what you can't always find in the history books. Interview a U.S. veteran in your community and submit their audio or video interview to the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Or share their stories by contributing their original photos, letters, or military documents. Participate so that future generations may hear directly from those who served and better understand the realities of war. Download a field kit from our website and find out how you can play a role in preserving history.
We all know that the Cedar Valley is a great place to live and work. And there are many individuals and organizations that are doing their part to improve the quality of life for everyone that calls this their home. On Serving the Valley, we sit down with these service organizations to learn more about different projects and events that need your support. We all need to do our part to help out our community. Tune into Serving the Valley to learn more.
Welcome back to Veterans of the Cedar Valley, and our guests today, Dave Boyd and Jenny Ruther, and we're talking about the living arrangements for homeless veterans.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask you to discuss a little bit what your future plans are and where do you think this is going to go for Northeast Iowa, because there are probably other veterans, towns that have the same kind of need. So talk about your future plans.
You want me to take
Sure, yes.
Sid, I have tremendous support from my board of directors in providing service to veterans. They are as excited about it as our team members are. Mm-hmm. So in terms of expansion and growing the program, I have their support, and without it, it would be impossible. Right. Our intent is to serve as many veterans as we possibly can. We have, and Jenny can outline for you, but we are opening a new home in Dubuque for up to 5 homeless vets. And we hope to do that throughout our territory as long as we can afford to do that.
Mm-hmm. And your vets that you're going to serve, the VA office in Dubuque works and helps you identify mm-hmm. those in need?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And what about the homes? Mm-hmm. How do you find the homes to provide that service for?
We've had help of real estate people or developers that the home in Dubuque, for example, was a new construction, Sid. So it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's just recently built and furnished. So we've had help from professionals in locating mm-hmm. those homes, make sure they're on a bus line, convenient for the veterans to get to different places. But when you go in these homes, Sid, I can't stress enough that they are warm, comfortable, right. attractive, and again, I don't mean to be redundant, but to have a veteran who has been sleeping in a cardboard box, come into one of these homes is very heartwarming.
Oh, yes, 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 it would be.
Oh, it is. It is.
And what about the work portion of your program? I think that's really pretty important. You have, I think, 8 or 9 now that are in the program now.
Oh, I think we're close to a dozen now
Are
that
you
are actually
really?
working, whether it's at our Falls Avenue location doing some contract work, or at one of our store locations
Right.
doing sorting clothes and some janitorial type work as well.
Yeah,
So,
let's expand on that a little bit, because that again I think is so important to a veteran that's struggling, and that to
right.
have purpose and have opportunities to work and learn
right.
new skills.
You think about the self-dignity and self-respect that's associated with earning your way, Sid. We all feel good about going to work
Right.
and doing a good job. And getting that first paycheck when you haven't had one for a while
Right.
is tremendous. We see veterans that are earning an income now. They're able to have some money in their pocket, and the gratification of doing a day's work for a day's pay.
Right. And what kind of work experiences can you give them?
Right now, like I said, it's either through some contract work that we have. We have contracts through Deere's, Aramark, some layer pads. So we have several opportunities at the plant, at our Falls location, but then we have opportunities at the store as well. And really, we see that just as a stepping stone for them. We don't want them to get comfortable and, and retire from Goodwill by any means. We want them to regain their skills, regain their, attendance or whatever their issue was before, and rebuild those skills and move on. And we've actually just had a recent success with that. We've had a person, when they come to us, they start with minimum wage, but a person recently, he's moved on and he's working elsewhere and he's making close to $18 an hour now.
Really?
So, we were just that stepping stone he needed to get back on his feet and back on his own. So, and that's what it's all about, is a success story of people
Yes.
moving on, and letting others come through. And just we just want to see a rotation of that.
I think the word you use, success, that is very a driving force for people to be successful.
Oh,
as
definitely.
we all know.
Definitely. And I think that was huge for the other veterans to see
Right.
him move on and know that, that is possible, that is attainable to do that. That was a good influence for them to see and good motivation.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that Deere's and these industries are stepping forward to serve.
Absolutely.
We had at some point gotten out of industrial contract work, Sid, but the Veterans Program allowed us to rejuvenate that, go into the community, find contract work so that our veterans have a real work experience and eventually leave Goodwill, as Jenny's pointing out.
Right. So when do they drop out of the program, or when they become successful that they don't need your services then?
Right.
How do you deal with that? And
Yeah, I mean, there's really no set deadline. Everyone is very individualized plan. So we've had people as little as 2 weeks in the program, and he's moved on. We've had a person that's been in the house since day one, and is just not quite ready. When they're, I guess, physically and mentally and financially able to move on and make that next step, I mean, we'll support them in any way we can. We've had people that move out into their own apartments, but yet we're still there to provide that support and service, making sure they're getting to their doctor's appointments, whether it be in Iowa City or Cedar Rapids or whatever the case may be, just to make sure they're keeping up and having that follow through, because that's what's important,
Right.
to make sure that they continue with those VA benefits.
Now, do you provide them services to work with them? Like say you assign someone to John Deere. do you send somebody along with them to?
We have a supervisor, yeah, that oversees that person to make sure, he or she's getting along okay. Most of the people that we work with do not necessarily need that side-by-side attention, just more of an oversight to make sure they're getting to work on time or even showing up for work. And if they don't show up for work, we have a person that will be at the door asking, hey, what's going on today? Why aren't you at work?
We have a couple minutes left,
Okay.
and I would like to, what are your needs right now? That's one of the things I wanted to get to today is what are your needs to continue this program and make it successful?
I think our traditional support that the community has given us for 57 years, Sid, support our donated goods program. When you make a donation, that means somebody got a job.
Right.
It helps us to provide a work experience for people with disabilities or veterans. We certainly love to see a check come in the mail. If they want to designate that to the Veterans Program, we'll make sure that that happens. But that support that the community has given us for 57 years has just been tremendous, and we hope that that continues.
How about volunteer services, donated services, and rebuilding a home? Contractors coming and helping you with certain phases of that, restoring the house.
Yeah, all that volunteer help is critical,
Right.
Sid. And as far as the renovation of homes in the Cedar Valley, I would encourage people to call Tim Combs at Americans for Independent Living.
Yeah, that's right. And I saw him yesterday, and he's provided some materials, and hopefully someday we'll have him here to talk about what they need and publicize his program.
Great.
We have just a minute left. I want to thank you folks for being here today, and I'd like to continue this because I think what you're doing is tremendously important to veterans in our community. And
Well, thank you for having us, Sid. Anytime that we get a chance to talk about goodwill, we take it.
Well, you bet.
You've given us that opportunity. We
Well,
truly appreciate it.
thank you.
Yes, thank you,
Well,
Sid.
you're doing good, and I know that veterans appreciate it. I went to a VFW meeting last night, and we spent quite a lot of time talking about this very topic, and veterans are very pleased to be a part of this.
Great.
Well, good.
That's
Good.
wonderful.
That's good
Thank
to
you
hear.
and we'll do another program later.
Okay, sounds
I'd
good.
be happy to.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.